Hey guys, Prangell Gaming here, and welcome back to Talk the Wall. Now, this is the 13th installment, and before we get into any of your responses and questions you may have had, if you haven't seen any of the other 12 installments, yes, it has been that long now, then I would advise you to go check them out. There is going to be a link in the description of this video for the last Talk the Wall, and you can also access the playlist by clicking the I button. And if you do click the I button, why not check out my latest vlog, which is Millwall versus Rochdale. Yes, the result wasn't obviously the best, but I have got every single goal in there, and that challenge that Ben Thompson made, obviously, to receive his second yellow card and get sent off. But as always, if you have anything that you want to put in the comments section, feel free to, along with any score predictions for the Walsall game. And I'm going to say the Port Vale game, because obviously Port Vale is tonight, but I would say specify which game it's for, because obviously it could be very, very hard to understand, because you could comment a game that could be for Walsall, but I could take it and think that it could be for Port Vale. And also, do bear in mind that I do record this on the Monday, so if anything has become outdated or if any news stories has actually appeared, then I'll cover them next week. So I'm going to start with your score predictions for the Rochdale game, and I'm going to go with the closest one first, and that was Alici. Predicted the score to end 3-2. However, he obviously thought that Millwall would get the 3 points there, not Rochdale. So if he had thought that Rochdale were going to do it, then he would have been spot on. Another close prediction for the scoreline would have been what two of you predicted, and that would have been Gabriel Townsend and Joe Conway. It is, to be honest, a reasonable scoreline, and it could have ended up that way if we'd got one more in the first half. I really think that we could have kept the game like that, and I actually thought that the score would end that way as well. So a little bit frustrating, but when do I get the scoreline right? Very, very few times. And the next scoreline was 2-1, and it was predicted by both Joe Holloway and Harry CD. It was unlucky not to get it right again. It would have been the score in the first half, so the game really had a lot of action in it, so it's not always easy to predict, especially with Millwall at the moment. But do feel free to put your score predictions for the Port Vale game and obviously, as I said, the Walsall game. And then I saved the most audacious one till last, and that was Alfie's Wet Gaming, and he said 4-0, so it was a little bit over the top, but we should be doing that. We shouldn't be losing to these terrible teams, and I really think he's spot on. We should be doing those sort of 4-0 wins. We should be beating teams that are that low in the league by that sort of goals. We would have done that last season. We're just not doing it this season for some reason. Really, I don't understand why. And Alfie Wets Gaming was actually the first person to comment on this video, and he said it was a bit controversial here, but I think we should play with a 3-5-2 formation with Archer in goal, Romeo as the right centre-back, obviously because Romeo can play centre-back now, Martin and Craig potentially as the left centre-back, or the centre-backs in the middle would be Craig and Hutchinson. So I'm just going to go ahead, and on the graphic you're not going to see Craig on there. That's because I like Joe Martin. I think he's our best, or not best centre-back, but best defender. And Hutchinson, I think that a lot more fans actually want Hutchinson in the team at the moment. The centre defensive midfielders would then be Thompson and Butcher, Cam as Williams, right midfielders David Worrell, and the left midfielder would be between Wild and Ferguson, and then the two strikers Morrison and Gregory. And I'm going to be honest here, I actually don't think it's controversial. Millwall do need a new system to play, because I believe that all the teams in our league literally have us figured out before we even play the game, and so maybe that could be the solution. As I said, Marlon can play as a centre-back, so it might be worth a try. It definitely isn't a bad shout, and necessarily that could be the best way to go forward, because we do have specialists in certain positions. For example, Butcher is a great defensive midfielder, so maybe utilise that instead of having him as just a straight-up centre midfielder. But that would mean that we would have to go out and get another centre midfielder like we did in the last window. We would obviously have Kyron Farrell, but we would still need a backup to fill in the space in case Jimmy was out on international duty, etc., etc. The next person to comment was Harry CD, and he said, I personally rate Williams highly, however I find it sometimes being a bit lazy on the pitch, which is frustrating to see. And I kind of know what he means by that, to be honest, but you have to take it this way. When the squad are losing, the team do seem to forget their roles completely. We just fold. And I do believe that it's not just Williams, it's a lot of the members in the team at the moment, and I think that morale really is at an all-time low at this club. I really don't know what it is. I really hope we can sort it out out tonight against Port Vale, but we could be in the same situation of losing tonight, and it would be even worse if we do so. So we just got to hope that we can turn this unfortunate form round. And he also added to that, surely it's time to drop Tony Craig. Harris has given him enough chances. The fans don't want to see him wearing the armband anymore, and I think Morrison should have been skipper from the start. When Hutchinson is match fit, he can replace Craig. So that is obviously a very angry fan, and you have right to be angry at the moment. I'm angry myself, and I've been doing a little bit of looking at the stats side of things, and to be honest, last season we had a defence and a goalkeeper that we relied on so much to stop the ball, and they're just not stopping it from going in the back of the net at the moment. We have failed to win in our last 4 games. Yeah, fair enough. That sometimes happens. We've got to live with that. But in these 4 games, we've scored 5, which is a decent amount of goals. We've averaged just over 1 goal per game. That's not so bad. You can win games by 1 goal. Obviously not as much as what we can score, but still, we're getting the goals. And then the real issue at the moment is the amount we've conceded. We've conceded 8 goals in our past 4 games, which is a huge number, and it's obviously averaging 2 goals per game. That's frustrating. This defence was so solid last season, or it seemed to be, so something is not going right in that area. And to be honest, it's the fact that we're struggling to score goals. I really think that the strikers kind of scored more goals last season to weigh out the defence not looking so bad because we were high on morale, everything like that, and it is seeming to be that the evidence isn't stacking in Tony Craig's favour. He has made plenty of mistakes that have obviously led to the goals, and he is the captain, that's all I can say, but unless Harris decides that he isn't fit to lead the team out onto the pitch, then that will not change. And I definitely do think that the defence is struggling to fit in with Tony at the back, where it was fine before with Byron and Beavers. And I just don't know why that is. And I will not go as far as say we're missing Beavers, because he was a liability, a huge liability, getting sent off, doing stupid things like passing it back and making Archer have to head of the ball over the bar. He really just wasn't a fantastic player at all. And I just want to know what you guys think. What do you think is actually going wrong at the moment at the club? I really want to know, because obviously I'm only one fan. I'm getting your opinions. I want us to come to some sort of conclusion, what we think is not happening at the moment. And I really think that we could find it out between all of us, because we're not anywhere near the standards we should be. And just while we're at talking about some other stuff, I would actually like to know your top 3 players so far this season, like the ones that have been performing the best, and the worst 3. I kind of know some of the players that are going to be in the worst, but I'm not going to go into that, and I will definitely reveal mine next week. Now, before we get into any sort of Millwall news, and there's a fair bit this week, I just want to cover the game that Millwall played. Obviously, it's that one against Rochdale. Not really one I want to dwell on too much. We lost it 3-2, obviously, and I'm not going to get angry. Yeah, I'm not. I'm just going to say that there. And we've got to kind of forget that there was very little positives, and just hope that we can regain some sort of form that we were showing last season. And I hope we can do it against Port Vale, but I still think Port Vale are a lot stronger compared to Rochdale, and Rochdale did a number on us. Obviously, the goal scorers in that game were Aidan O'Brien, and he was assisted by Lee Gregory. It was pretty nice to see. A very easy bundled goal by O'Brien, I'm going to be honest there. And then Lee Gregory obviously scored the penalty for us. It's one of those things. You get penalties, sometimes you score them, sometimes you don't. And he converted it for us. And it was a day of obviously a lot of misfortune. Thompson getting sent off, debatably for something that he definitely could have had a chance of maybe not getting sent off for, but there's a lot of factors to consider, so I'd let you guys really make your mind up on that. And then obviously we gave away that late penalty that saw the Rochdale skipper Ian Henderson put it in the back of the net and win the game for Rochdale. Some people are saying it wasn't a penalty. I kind of have seen through my footage and through the highlights, they definitely went through the back of him, but I would like you guys to obviously watch the footage a few more times and see what you reckon. If you still think it's not a penalty, then obviously that's your own opinion, you're entitled to it. So it is that time in the podcast where I do give the Millwall news, and as I said, there is a fair chunk of news to be giving today, and I'm going to start with the most frustrating one, to be honest, or annoying, weird, obscure. Yeah. So it's Millwall versus Charlton. Obviously, you know that was an important match coming up. Well, it's only been cancelled. Yeah, fair enough. But do you know why? No, obviously. Charlton have 3 players on international duty. I'm sorry, out of 26 players, you want to cancel a game because 3 players are on international duty. Are you having a laugh? What a terrible excuse to call a game off. I mean, we have 3 international players. In Ferguson, obviously, he's Northern Irish. Jimmy Abdu, who's Comoros. And Marlon Romeo, who's from Antigua. So I just don't understand why they would go as far as cancel it. Obviously, each to their own, frustrating. I am definitely going to that game no matter what. It was meant to be played on Saturday the 8th of October, but obviously those 3 players that Charlton have quote-unquote cancelled because they can't afford to be without is Josh McGuinness, one of their new signings this summer, make of it as you will, Jordan Batanka, another new signing on loan from Leeds, and then finally Adamola Lookman, a youngster that's come through their ranks in recent seasons. McGuinness has 1 goal, 2 assists this season, Batanka has an assist, and Lookman has 2 goals. And the new date for this game will be announced after the 8th or 9th of November, but still, I just think that's a joke, really. You can't be without 3 of your players. That is seriously stupid. We definitely would have been looking forward to that one, and we still should be. It's going to be a very, very interesting game. Obviously, a derby match that I cannot wait to watch. The next piece of news is that Neil Harris said he would drop players no matter what the age or experience level in the team. And he did seem to put this into practice against Rochdale because he made 3 changes to the squad. But I'm just going to say this now. 1 was forced due to Joe Martin picking up 5 yellow cards, and the other change was due to Lee Gregory coming back into the team after recovering from his injury. And I've got to say, if he didn't think that the squad's done well enough, then he will make the changes after the loss against Rochdale. He's got to. He really has to. I can't see no other way. There are just players in that squad that aren't performing. And I feel that if he's serious, he will go ahead and will de-axe against the players. And if he doesn't, then he's just making a mockery of himself. He's just looking like a bit of an idiot. But I really do think Harris will. He's usually true to his word. And he also said that the players show a lot of willingness to fight. And when they play, there is a lot to be impressed with. And he also said alongside just before the Rochdale game that his statement was made clear. He said to the players, they know what to expect from this game, and they know what they need to do. And have them being very aware of this game, they need to bounce back like they did against Sheffield United, obviously, when we lost to Peterborough. And I do think that that may mean that a lot of members may not be on the team sheet against Port Vale tonight, and I hope so as well. Some of the players have been atrocious, and I really don't get why certain players aren't playing in that team. I'm not going to go into who it is, but I just think it's quite concerning that a few players aren't being given as much game time as others. Harry Smith is then involved in the next part of news, and it was because last week he revealed that he turned down a contract offer from one of Millwall's greatest rivals, Gillingham. So for those that you don't actually know much about Harry Smith, he started pre-season with Gillingham for a week, and during that time Neil Harris spoke to him about coming to Millwall to have a trial with the club. Smith then obviously played his trial, playing 3 games of Millwall's pre-season. He then left Folkestone and Vincia to join us. Now, the original deal is that he signs and then he comes to join the youth team to build up his playing ability before coming into the starting 11 for Millwall eventually sometime down the line. Well, that was the plan, but in 6 games of the youth academy team for Justin Skinner, he scored 3 goals and he's also sat on the bench for one of the matches for Millwall this season. So it could be a matter of time before he actually gets an actual starting place for Millwall, considering that we're having a few issues at the moment. And he also revealed that his mind was made up from day one after speaking to Neil Harris. So Neil Harris must have a way of speaking to players that certain people don't, because everyone says Neil Harris convinced him. Neil Harris convinced him, and that, to be honest, is a good sign that Harris can talk everything to bring players in. And again, it's great to see that passion from players to want to come to this club, to want to play for the club, because we need that. Aidan O'Brien is then the next subject of the news, and that's because he hobbled off the pitch in the 26th minute to be replaced by David Worrell after scoring, and he is injured. Now, I don't know what the extent of his injury is. I don't even know what his injury is at the actual time of me recording this, but I do sincerely hope that it isn't a long one, as he has been scoring consistently for the past 3 games, and in the injury, from the footage that I've seen and everything, it looked like he rolled his knee and it just gave way again when he tried to run it off. So I just hope that he gets well soon. It isn't too bad, because at the moment he is very important to this team. And finally, the last piece of news is to do with Hutchinson, and it's a bit of an injury update. A few of you guys wanted to kind of know where he is, what's happening with him, why isn't he playing, where is he? Well, Harris said this just before the game against Rochdale. Sean is always looking likely return in the next couple of weeks, but he just doesn't. And so, that being said, I think despite what Harris has said there, we will be lucky to get our new signing back for about a month or just maybe under that, and he can then finally show us what he's got to offer after only featuring those 5 minutes of the professional match, which was against Peterborough United where we lost 5-1. He came on and had the same injury because he had to be subbed off in that game. And some of you will hate hearing this because you want him to replace the Millwall captain Tony Craig, but I have done some reading and I've seen at the start of his career he picked up some nasty injuries. However, he was able to play 3 seasons on the trot for Motherwell before going to Fulham, and after that he didn't get injured too much, but he never really got the chance. So we're hoping that this injury resolves itself, for the fact that he doesn't want to slip back into his old ways of consistently getting injured, because if he does, we'll have another Nicky Bailey situation on our hands where he plays pretty well during the games and then gets injured, and then we just have to keep hoping that he can come back, he can play some games, and we might have to end the deal with him eventually. So if he comes back, make sure he is 100% match fit. I've got to stress that, 100% match fit, because if he isn't, we could cause issues, and that could mean he can seriously go back to his old ways of getting injured, which we really don't want. So anyway, guys, that is all we've got time for today at least. Do feel free to put any questions or opinions in the comment section for the next Talk the Ball. However, before I go, don't forget to put those score predictions for the Walsall game in the comment section, as I said, with the Port Vale one as well, if you want to just specify it, as next week I will cover them along with the good and bad points that I've seen within the game. And I also want you guys to let me know how you think the game went. Obviously, some people say they want Tony to be dropped, etc, etc. So like, comment, subscribe, and of course I will see you guys next week for the next Talk the Wall. Goodbye.